A Reflective Framework for Conscious Living and Practice by Sehat Social. Much of the contemporary self-improvement conversation encourages people to focus on the behavior and attitudes of others, sometimes even to the point of diagnosing them. It teaches that the solution to our struggles lies in managing our reactions to presenting situations. For example, to stay calm, regulate emotion, avoid being drawn in by others' behavior. We are also taught to mitigate their behavior by becoming more adept at manipulating them. Beneath this runs a current of power and control that shapes much of the talk about emotional mastery and boundaries. What starts as an effort to understand and steady ourselves easily drifts into trying to shape or contain others. We begin to believe that calmness and composure give us power, that if we stay centered enough, we can manage and gain power and control of others. In this way, self-development turns away from genuine self-understanding and toward refining our ability to influence the world around us. Flip the Narrative invites a different orientation. Instead of asking, how should I react to others' behaviors? We begin to ask, how do I choose to be, regardless of what happens around me? This shift moves the focus from control to self-direction, from reaction to creation, and from self-protection to conscious participation in life. So what actually is Flip the Narrative? Simply, it is a way of seeing and being. It isn't a method of self-improvement or a strategy for managing others. It's the moment we stop organizing our lives around reaction and begin to live from intention, choosing how to act, speak, and show up in alignment with what we value. It reminds us that growth is not about fixing or changing oneself, but about expressing the self with integrity. It invites clarity instead of control, participation instead of protection, and meaning instead of mastery. At its heart, Flip the Narrative is an act of conscious living, a quiet turning toward presence, where who we are is no longer written by circumstance. The Strengths approach sees every person as capable and resourceful, not as a set of problems to fix, but as someone already acting with purpose, often in ways that make sense given their experience. Every behavior can be understood as an attempt to meet a need, uphold a value, or protect something important. Flip the Narrative grows naturally from this understanding. It asks us to see strength not as control, but as the ability to live with awareness and intention, to choose our direction rather than be defined by reaction. It shifts our attention from managing outcomes to creating alignment with what matters most. When we act from intention, calmness is no longer a strategy for influence, but a reflection of clarity. Boundaries are no longer tools to manage others, but expressions of what we honor in ourselves. In this way, strength becomes less about maintaining control and more about living with coherence, where intention, action, and value meet. Both the Strengths approach and Flip the Narrative share a deep respect for dignity and agency. Each reminds us that human growth is not something done to us or for us. It's something lived by us, moment by moment, through the way we choose to be in the world. The heart of the practice. Every moment gives us a choice. We can act from the pull of what's happening around us, trying to manage, defend, or control, or we can act from a quieter place inside us that knows what we stand for. Flip the Narrative is about settling into that place, the inner ground where clarity meets confidence and replaces control. It's not about perfection or calmness, it's about awareness. It's the practice of remembering that how we choose to be matters more than what happens to us. When we act from intention rather than reaction, life becomes less about keeping balance and more about living with clarity. We stop asking, how do I exert control? And start asking, what do I want to bring to this moment? This is where dignity lives, not in how well we resist disturbance, but in how truthfully we live what we value. A reflective invitation. When I no longer need to manage or control others, what becomes possible in me? Flip the narrative invites us to live from this question, to shift from being shaped by what happens to shaping how we are within it. It's a practice of steady presence, clear, kind, and self-directed. Closing reflection. In the quiet that follows each decision, we return to the simple truth that how we are matters, not as performance, not as correction, but as presence. Every moment invites us to meet life without needing to manage it, to bring our awareness, our confidence, and our care into whatever unfolds. In doing so, we discover that peace was never the absence of disturbance, it was the space within us that remained steady all along. This is the heart of Flip the Narrative, not a method, but a remembering. Thank you for listening, and we hope you have found this interesting and useful.